process of community development and community transformation. And so those are the capability areas that the program includes. And I'm going to now just go right ahead, and if you have more questions about the project, a wonderful place to ask them is today during the questions and answers, or tomorrow again at this learning center. Okay. So as I mentioned, this case study is a result of a research study that I conducted, and it was a qualitative research study that was able to look at women who had participated in the SAT program, and also a group of women who wanted to participate, but for chance circumstances were unable to do so. So in research speak, we call this a natural experiment. And what's nice about it is that I was able to identify a small number of women who were similarly motivated to participate in the program, but some of whom were not able to. And so I was able to look at the experiences of women who participated and compare those experiences with this comparison group. And so I'm going to just briefly go over this methodology. If people have questions about the methodology, I'm happy to answer them, but I want to use my time to talk about the interesting thing, which is the findings. So, okay, wonderful. Great. I also want to very briefly mention the context, the site where this research was conducted, to give a face to these words. I think what's so interesting about this context, and it resonates a lot with what Jeanette has said today and what she said yesterday, and then also the background that's offered in the working paper that was produced by the women's group. That it talks about how women work in agriculture, that women perform 90% of the work processing food crops, providing household water and fuel wood. They do the work of food storage and transportation, the harvesting and marketing work. And so this really does characterize this setting. The research was conducted in Garifuna communities. The Garifuna are an ethnic group that have lived in Honduras since the early 1800s. There are approximately 50 Garifuna communities along the north coast of Central America. There are about 200,000 Garifuna that live in Honduras, and the community is characterized by a very rigid gender division of labor. So women predominantly work in agriculture, and men work in fishing. And also, some of them have migrated to larger cities. So this is just a map of Honduras, so you can see where it is, and you can also see in this box the research sites. And then these are just some photos that illustrate what this setting looks like. This is the newly constructed road. This is one of the areas where the research was conducted. This is, you can see these are coastal communities. And then finally, this is probably what Jeanette would say is not such a typical picture, because this is a picture of a woman who is engaged in food production. The staple crop of this region is cassave, or yuca, and women process this into a flatbread that has one of its many benefits is the long shelf life that it has. And so just to give you a sense of this context and of this community. Okay, so just to very, very briefly summarize my findings. Education is a powerful tool to help encourage participation in public spaces. Women who participate in the program became empowered through increased knowledge, self-confidence, and participation in community action and decision-making. Participants were more likely to participate in public life and described a more equitable household division of labor. So I just want to share a few quotations from you from the participants from my research. So one woman, when speaking about knowledge and self-confidence, she said, "I've seen a great change in myself because before I couldn't speak in public. Now I can give a presentation in the university. I couldn't do this before, no way." Another woman said, "I didn't do it, speak in public, because I was afraid and ashamed, because I hadn't studied. So now I'm a professional and trained. Now I'm not afraid of confronting any situation and expressing myself." Women also spoke about specific knowledge in agriculture. The SAT program has a very strong agricultural component. And so one woman described that she's still trying to use the traditional agricultural techniques that are typical of her region, but trying to incorporate some of the agricultural innovations that are presented in the SAT program. So she said, "I plant a little different from the traditional way. I still plant traditionally, but I also use the techniques that I learned in SAT." Okay, then what else I think is really very interesting is the notion of participation in public spaces and how women, through their increased self-confidence, were able to participate in community organizations, some of whom for the first time. So one woman said, "It was when I started with SAT that she began to participate." She said, "It helped familiarize me with other people and participate, to not be ashamed to be in meetings. I can say that SAT me formó. SAT shaped me. Before, I was always ashamed. People would say, let's go to meetings, and I would say, no way. After being in the program, we used to go to meet with other students in Siriboya, Punta Piedra, sort of neighboring villages. So I got better at this. Okay, so it's the idea that they are actually able to practice participation. And I think this is really key because the other panelists have talked about this idea of trying to create women leaders, right? Trying to create people who can access the policy level. And we'll never have that unless women are given an education that enables them to feel comfortable, not be ashamed, to participate in these kinds of activities. One student was particularly inspiring. Her name was Lina. She was in her early 20s and studied to be a social worker at the National University in Tegucigalpa, which is the Honduran capital. She was always very active in her community, but during her years of participation in SAT, she became even more active. She was the president and the treasurer of her Catholic youth organization called Pastoral Social. She was selected by the national organization of Pastoral Social to be the Honduran representative to the Jubilee 2000 meetings in the Vatican in Rome in 2000. She said that she was selected because she was active in groups and they elected her as a coordinator. So she remains active in this organization and she's attending regular meetings in Tegucigalpa. So you just see that this woman is going to be a leader. I mean, she's so inspirational. And you think if this woman had not had the opportunity to study, you know, there's so much potential there that's untapped. Okay, now the part that I think is the most interesting, which is the change among men. Okay, so in some ways the findings that I just presented shouldn't be surprising. You know, there's so much evidence that suggests that education is this key motor of rural development, that education has the potential to empower women. But what we don't know about is, okay, so women might be taking on new roles in public spaces. Women might be earning more money as a result of their income. But what I want to know is what's happening within this household. Because it's not just women's advancement that will bring about gender equality, but also this change in the way in which we see the roles of women and then we see the roles of men. So several women described changes in their intimate relationships with their male partners. They said that it was through consultation and through the sharing of their SAT materials, their SAT textbooks, that they were able to negotiate new roles with their partners. So one participant who is named Wilma, and this as much as possible is her words. She says, "My husband comes from a family that has the idea that a woman's place is at home and man's is on the street." So it's this famous phrase, "La mujer es de la casa y el hombre es de la calle." She said when they first started living together, she had to, quote, cook, change the baby's diapers, do just about everything. Even if I was washing clothes, he would call me to change the baby's diaper. He would call me to make a bottle. I should also say that Wilma had 4 children in 4 years. So she was busy, okay? She was really busy. Wilma decided to speak to her husband about this situation. She said that she found segments of the SAT textbooks that confront traditional gender roles, and she and her husband read them together, and she would ask him, "What do you think about this?" And she said, and then he said that things didn't really need to be this way, the way things were before in our home. And little by little, because of these lessons, I saw that he changed. And he changed in a surprising way. She said that now, if she's cooking and he is with one of their children, he will change the diapers. She said that he cleans them, he bathes them without any problem. So she also explained that when she was having her 4th child, she was looking for someone to help her to recover after the birth and to help her take care of the children. She had a hard time finding someone, and her husband said to her, "Well, why do you need someone? I'm here. That's what I'll do." And in this context, that was actually, very, very profound. Okay, so Wilma attributes these behavioral changes to his exposure to the lessons in the SAT textbooks. And just this simple idea that he realized that things didn't need to be the way they were. So I'm not suggesting that necessarily change will be this easy, but it does illustrate that sometimes people are just stuck in a certain mentality, and all it takes is exposure to new ideas to help them think, oh, actually I could do things differently. Another woman named Sonia